Here's the problem no one prepares you for. You built a successful company, the money's finally there, and now you're asking two terrifying questions. Where do I put this? And how do I make sure this actually lasts?
Today's episode is about what comes after success.
Growing a business is one skill. Turning that success into time, legacy, and impact, that's a completely different game.
I'm Bo Barron, CCIM.
And I'm Timmy Barron, ADHD.
And this is Commercially Speaking.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Our guest today works with business owners who've reached that next stage of success and are asking better questions about their money. Garrett Gatton is the founder of Reinvest Capital, where the focus is on buying back time, building generational wealth, and investing with intention.
This is a guy who's helping business owners stop asking, how do I protect this money? And start asking, how do I use this well?
He's focused on passive real estate investing, apartment syndications, and creating opportunities that let people focus on their families and businesses while their capital works for them.
Also worth noting, this man casually held a meeting in Ohio's first 3D printed concrete home, which isn't the point of this episode, but is a strong indicator that he's paying attention to where things are headed.
Founder of Reinvest Capital, CRE broker, and co-host of the Reinvest podcast.
Time buyer, legacy builder, capital steward. Let's call him Captain Capital Steward. Please welcome to the show, Garrett Gatton.
That's got to be a chapter in how to win friends and influence people, is give a great podcast intro.
Hey, I'll tell you, man, I've literally pitched one of the highest profile guests that will be coming on this season. And the pitch was, a number of things, but one, we guarantee we'll give you the best introduction of your life.
Yeah.
And it worked. He's coming on. So it's really exciting.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right into it. People are successful. They get successful. And then it's like, then what? What do you do with your money? Not many people talk about that. What is it that you do for that, and how you got into it?
It all started in the ministry sector, which I think you guys alluded to in my intro. Mm-hmm. I was out of high school, came into youth ministry, which I feel like is the on road for all people considering what that is. It's the only job that the more immature you are, the better you are at what you do.
That's so true.
So I really leaned into that for
we both wanted to be youth ministers at some point in our lives.
That's right. The way you described that would have worked great for me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I will say, with the rapid escalation of technology, I feel more out of touch now. And that happened really quick. Like a couple years out of being in youth ministry, I was like, what are we saying? What are the words and phrases that are being used? So
let me interrupt you here, because you were just telling us before we came on, you got 7 kids, which is unbelievable, ages 10 to 6. I've got 3 kids. They're 23, 19, and 16. Timmy's got 2. They're younger, 8 and 4. 8 and 4. But my daughter, she's 16. She says,
Wait,
I get new words every once in a while.
Hold that thought for a sec. 6 to 10 years old is what you said?
6 months.
Oh, 6 months. I was trying to do the math there. I was like, I was like, do you got?
I might have said that wrong. Yeah, 10 years
okay.
old to 6 months old.
Yeah. Okay.
But my 16-year-old daughter, she shows up sometimes. She starts using a different word, and it's a word we've known all our life. The new one is period. Period.
Oh, gotcha.
And the previous word to period was slay.
Slay.
So you say something and like it's in the same boat as amen. Slay. Like you say something, slay.
Yeah. Slay.
And now it's period. And she said that a couple times. I looked at her. I was like, is period basically this month's version of slay? She's like, yeah, that's it. I was like, okay. All right, I got it. Yeah. So no, I get it. Even the words they use, they just redefine them and use them differently.
Right.
And
I feel we were at Christmas, and I use my nieces and nephews as kind of an audit on, what changes have happened in the last 6 months that I need to be aware of, trip, Riz, all this stuff. And ironically, I leave and I'm still confused. So I just guess there's no hope. But
well, anyway, I completely knocked you off balance there. So
yeah. youth ministry. Through that, though, I stepped into a development role for the organization I was working with. And it was really interesting. There's a lot, and I don't want to fixate on this too much, but there's a lot of bad money lessons that you learn when you're in vocational ministry. And I didn't realize those until I stepped into the vocation, like the development side of the organization. And I started to interact with higher net worth individuals, business owners that had, were stakeholders in the ministry I was working with. And it really opened up a new vantage point for me of some of these questions we're asking. How do you steward, I'll use that word, funds and finances well? And, for a guy that was coming in ministry, and then even early on in my real estate career, it was all about wealth creation, right? So you're taking anything, everything. It's kind of just any opportunity, however bad or miserable it was, you just jumped at it.
Yep.
And then something happens in your business where you build something and it starts to run, and there's resources, people being the most important, resource in that engine. And your goals start to change. And I started to realize that through my conversations with these donors in the ministry. And they really it was less about wealth creation, and it was purpose driven. It was stewardship. It was legacy, and things that, as a 25, 26-year-old, those weren't questions I was asking.
Right.
And so then fast forward, I jumped into the commercial real estate and investment real estate. So I got my license, started selling packages, investment grade products. And then it just really parlayed well into some of those same conversations. And there are certain clients that I fire myself from, and Bo, I'm sure you've been there before, where you're like, lose my number, and this was fun. Don't ever do this again. But then there's an extremely rewarding segment of people that I get to work with, which I would say are most of the clients that I have. And those are the ones that are trying to figure out how to do something really cool with their money. So that segued into Reinvest Capital. I remember I was brokering a 26 unit portfolio in Northwest Ohio, and the seller came to us, said, "Hey, we'd like to take this to market. Can you help us do that?" Sure. Evaluated the package. And at this time, syndication and group investing was on the horizon and the radar for me. And that's really the long game. Brokering is great and stuff, but investing is my real passion. So we started to ask the question, hey, could we rally a group of guys to tackle this investment? And so, 3 weeks and $650,000 later, we sourced the capital and bought this thing. And it was a proof of concept. And it was with people that I would love doing business with again today. So that was kind of how Reinvest Capital got birthed. And now we focus on working with predominantly faith-based, but it doesn't have to be. It's more purpose-driven, high net worth individuals that want to deploy their capital and feel good about where they're investing in real estate. When
you are starting to, when you're meeting with people and as you're going into this venture, what kind of new problems do you see showing up for people that are, I guess, past that they're making real money now? So it's like, all right, we've got a business that's successful. What kind of new problems common problems do you see show up then?
Again, this is more from an observational perspective. When you have a lot of money, it's actually very hard to deploy that money. It's not like there's just an easy button for you to go thoughtfully and responsibly invest a couple $1 million. Right. Even if there is one outlet, you have to figure out, is that too many eggs in a basket? Where does that fit into the diversification of my portfolio? Is there a missional aspect to that can be achieved? And so, what we've really done is people know you, then they like you, and then they trust you. And that's the triangle progression of really building rapport with somebody. And that trust component is massively important, especially in today's market. I mean, you can jump on CoStar and read the headlines of Wall Street Journal, all these places of people that invested capital in the last 5 years into something that was the hot new thing. And now capital, I just want principal back. And sometimes that's not even on the table. There's just a lot of hard conversations happening. And I think it kind of is reinforcing the need to trust who you're working with. And a lot of these scenarios that are playing out in front of us, especially in the multifamily side, it's not that it was a bad operator. Sometimes it's negligence. Sometimes it's just, having an overly aggressive business plan, but nobody sees the cracks until you put stress on that model. So we really want to help people build that trust and feel good about who they're partnering with.
When you say purpose driven, and with most of the investing you're doing, it sounds like it's mostly in commercial real estate. Is that correct, or is there more?
We focus predominantly on 2 asset classes: apartment complexes and mobile home parks. And geographically, right now, that's in Northwest Ohio. As we build out, our ability to manage and oversee those operations, our footprint will increase. But that's just kind of our region right now. And so the purpose-driven aspect of it, I mean, value, this is not a new concept. I think this has been talked about for a while. For us, when we mean that, really, I'm bringing that from my ministry context. Like, I was driving to these apartment complexes far before I was ever thinking about investing, and I was dropping the kids off, and I was picking them up, and I was interacting with grandma and grandpa or mom or dad or whoever the family members were. And so, like, I've been in these settings, but now I'm actually looking at it as an owner. And there's this driving conviction inside of me that, like, Christian men and women should be at the highest places of influence, because if we do it correctly, it's going to have everybody wins in those scenarios, right? And we multiply blessing. I mean, you look in the Bible, and that's what Daniel did, right? There was these guys that were conduits of blessing that God used their influence, and I just think there's nobody better than us to be in those positions when done correctly. So I look at these apartment complexes, and I see a lot of opportunity to enrich the value, the lives of the people that live there, all the way to the investors that, put the money in with us to purchase these. Back in September, my family and I went to Myrtle Beach, and probably like all of you guys, that is a time for me to work on the business, not in the business. Hopefully, if I'm doing it correctly. Sometimes easier said than done, but through that, I was reading a book called Chase the Lion by Mark Batterson. He's a pastor out of Washington, D.C. Great book if you guys ever want to pick up something that's going to cause you to think from a visionary perspective, but to do it in partnership with your faith. Really, the big tagline is that, big prayers honor God, and God honors big prayers. And Mark Batterson, he's really just contagious, and he has a tremendous story about how they planted a church in DC and all these miracles that happened. So I was reading that book and thinking about our business and our investment strategy and the opportunities we could give people. And I was kind of convicted that we were leaving a lot on the table. And so came out of that and really reworked our strategy for when we buy an apartment complex, when we buy a mobile home community. How do we come in here and create a vibrant, Christ-centered community? And when you do that, I believe there's a profit aspect that comes from that. People want to live there. When you're hiking the rent on somebody and maybe taking it to what is, more commensurate with a market value, it's a lot easier to do that when you're enriching the community. You're paving the roads. You're creating a green space that is a place of community for the residents to gather. When the communication with property management increases and they feel value, heard, and seen. I just left one of our projects in our properties a month ago, and we had done an event where we bought pizza and had it at the front and invited everybody to come and get pizza, just an interaction with the residents. And we partnered with a Christian business owner, and on the pizza boxes, John 3:16, heavenly pizza. Like, it was just cool to find some alignment with other guys that feel passionate about what we do. And my maintenance guy, as we were leaving, he's like, "Hey, things are different here. Like, attitudes are different. People are different." And you think about that, like, it's really rewarding to break a stigma that a lot of people have about a mobile home park, that it's this very dank, kind of hopeless, like, scenario, entry level, like, that can be the perception, but it doesn't have to be. So I'm just excited to see how we can redefine that for people.
Are you familiar with Chuck Weldon? Chuck came on the podcast, I don't know, a number of months ago. He's got a company down in Birmingham, Alabama called Weldon Fields. And what they do is they're apartment developers, hotel developers, big property. They got tens of thousands of units under management, big size. Wow. But to them, it is business as mission. You hear him say business as mission. I mean, he's trying to introduce the people that they house to Jesus. And he talked a lot about the same things that you mentioned just now, just how loving on people, serving them well, building relationships with them. And he was talking about the bottom line impact of treating people well and just serving them.
Measurable. That's kind of crazy. Like there is a measurable to doing that.
Yeah, but I remember him saying, I don't remember what it was, but he said if tenants are inherently lonely at apartment complexes, but if they can build, I don't know, something small like 2, 3, 4 relationships, they're X% more likely to remain there and renew their lease.
Yeah.
So there's a very direct line, a direct path to the bottom line to just treating people the way you'd like to be treated.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like the golden rule pays, essentially. And you don't do it because of that, but you know, it's just when you were talking right there, I was like, man, we got to connect you with Chuck Weldon if you hadn't heard of him. He does something called the Lion's Den once a year, where he gets people in this redemptive real estate space, especially those in the multifamily. He gets them together in Birmingham, and we're going to be going this year. Looking forward to that.
Awesome.
I think it's in October. But
Yeah,
just put
he's
that on your
amazing.
radar. We'll connect you with him after. You'll love this guy.
Yeah, he's amazing and hilarious.
He's
Quite the personality.
Southern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
not
good.
PC.
He's good.
just, he's kind of our kind of guy.
Yeah,
you
he's
know?
really great. Let me ask, because you mentioned like big prayers honor God and God honors big prayers. What big prayers would that be? Meaning like you're shooting bigger, like you're not trying to limit what you are going for. Is that what you mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. So like, a prayer in this context is really a goal, right? But it's a goal that's surrendered, and one that's done in partnership. And that's really the key. I was leading a group a week and a half ago as we usher into the new year, and trying to get all of these verses that are some guiding principles on how to goal set, but not do it in a way that's just, your best effort and your best idea, but to do it in a way that's thoughtful and intentional. And, plans of a man are many in his mind, but it's the Lord that orders his steps. And so there's this idea, this invitation that like we are supposed to dream and set goals in partnership with God, which admittedly, I've had a very difficult time translating that from my ministry career to business. For some reason, it was easy for me to understand, like, okay, in a Bible study or in like a meeting where there's a gathering of people for the purpose of prayer, opening the scriptures, like God would bless that. But for some reason, it's been hard for me to realize that business is sacred as well, and that God wants to equally bless that. And so that's been a process for me. And I think, reading that book and getting in contact with guys who are actively living it out has been helpful for me.
Yeah, there's a couple guys we've had on the podcast besides Chuck. There's a couple, I forget their names now.
Well, John Marsh certainly would fall into that category.
There was another one who started flipping. There's two of them, but one of them started flipping houses. He's going
Joe
around.
Huber.
Yeah, Huber.
That's Joe. Do you know
That's
Joe
right.
Huber? He's an Ohio guy.
So he's in our backyard. Heard the name, have never had a conversation with him, but yeah, I think they're out of Columbus. Is that where they're?
He's another guy. We'll make
Same
sure you
thing.
get connected. Like you guys need to know each other.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's crazy because we have several people on here that talk about the, having a deeper purpose and a lot having to do with ministry. And, for all the people out there that aren't Christians, they can easily tune it off or tune it out. But the more I hear these stories, the more it's like, and you've said this several times before, it's like, if you the business based on biblical principles is just good business.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. It's really centered on the people and serving more than it is on the bottom line on money. And the crazy thing is that, that actually, it makes everything better. People want to stay there longer. There's not as much turnover. You're helping people to, like the guys at Hearthstone Funds First.
Yeah, the launch guys.
Launch guys, right? They've got a whole apartment complex helping immigrants and refugees to be there for several years, and then when they move out, they're moving out to buy a home with their families, right? Which is totally different than when your focus is just on money.
Yeah, and like doing business in a way that honors Jesus is not doing business with Christians It's
Right.
loving
Right.
people it's serving them well as you do business.
Right.
And you don't need somebody who loves Jesus on the other side to accomplish that. You just care for people as you do business.
Yeah.
And it's not all about what do I get out of it.
That's right.
You know.
Well, that's why I'm here to help translate that, you know, because a lot of times, you know, you're talking to Christians all the time, or you're in those circles and you all have the same vernacular, and all of a sudden everybody else is lost, right? What does that mean? You know, what does that happen? Like me coming into this commercial real estate world, you know, it's like y'all are talking. I'm like, wait, what does that mean?
Yeah. Right.
What are you talking about? I don't understand what's going on. So,
Well, I think there's something also to dispel is like, and this is probably more something I'm sensitive of coming from that vernacular and that side of things.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you bring up like Christian movies, everybody kind of sighs and like, oh, so it's not going to be good. You know what I mean? Like,
I do that.
quality of it's going to be poor.
Kirk Cameron is so talented, but
Look, that reputation is earned in a lot of ways.
Right.
But yeah.
It is, unfortunately. And so, you know, you carry that over and you're like, oh, you're a faith-based organization. And it's like, well, if I invest with you, then I'm really just donating my money.
Right.
And like, there really has to be something that's dispelled there because like the returns that we're getting on our properties are on par with, if not superior to, the companies that we would go toe to toe with that have no consideration, or even it's just not on their radar to bring the purpose component to it in that way.
Sure.
And that's true of a lot of companies and guys that I get to rub shoulders with. It's not, oh, do I put purpose behind my dollars at the cost of investment and return on investment? It's not an either or scenario. If you're doing it the correct way, you get to do both. It's a both and.
Yeah.
And reframing that is very helpful for people. And I think it brings a lot of freedom. So
I agree. But
we fight that a little bit with Hearthstone Capital, and we explicitly articulate, look, we're not trying to invest in a way that has an eternal impact at the expense of your returns.
right.
You know,
right.
like we're going to get market rate returns, and we're going to try to have an eternal impact at the same time, and they could absolutely augment each other.
Right.
right.
But yeah, there is a stigma there that if you do something that's redemptive or faith-based or however you want to call it,
charity work,
you're going to get less of a return because of that. Because
it bothers me when you see people lean on their faith or their background, you know, as an excuse to do something not with excellence.
That's right.
Yes.
And
yes.
it's like that. It's not found in the Bible. It doesn't, you know, endorse like running a shoddy business or So.
That's right. In the society we live today, you've got two things that are the main villains, mostly in the secular world, and one of those can be Christians, right? And in the stereotypical type of mega church, you know, the things that people see that they paint a wide brush with what Christians are, right? And
it's
those
the Preachers and Sneakers Instagram account. You seen that?
No, but that sounds like a great Instagram account to follow.
Preachers and Sneakers.
It's worth like 15 minutes of your time.
Okay,
it's
great.
like an Instagram account of all of these megachurch pastors and like these really nice sneakers. I mean, like $600, $800 pairs of shoes, you know, and it's like people kind of put it together to throw a dart at like kind of the lavish kind of hypocrisy. And I'm not saying just if your picture's on there that you're a farce or anything like that, but it illustrates, I think, the mentality. I personally am satisfied with a pair of Brooks running shoes, but hey, to each their own.
Sure. I wear Crocs every day. But the other people in society that are always the villains in movies are the
businessmen.
Businessmen.
Yeah.
The big CEOs. So, you know, and then when you mix the two together, you know, if there is not that translation, immediately people think, well, this is just going to charity work, or this guy's just using Christianity to manipulate people into, you know, buying or investing or whatever. So that's another thing I really like about this podcast is that translation of seeing real businesses work well, exceedingly well, with founders and investors that are legit. As it were, right? That are really pursuing a relationship in their faith, within their faith. So you mentioned freedom. Let's talk about that. What do you mean by freedom and buying back? I don't know if you said buying back freedom, but right before we got into what we just talked about, you brought up freedom. Let's talk about freedom a bit and getting freedom. Or what the heck do you mean?
Yeah, what? Braveheart. That's what I mean. No. I look at the guys the guys and gals that we get to rub shoulders with, and some come asking the question, should I be an active real estate investor? Because they associate that with kind of what it means to invest in real estate. And earlier on in my career,
which is what?
So like, I'm gonna just buy this, source it with my own capital. I'm not gonna partner with anybody. Or, if I do partner, I'm gonna be the operational aspect of this. I'm gonna,
they're
do
taking
the
the
reposition
calls
on the property. Yeah. Like it's me.
Yep.
And I mean, for sure, like you should be rewarded with more equity in return if you're going to do that, because you're trading something. It's your time and your energy. And I've watched a lot of guys think and equate that to investing in real estate. And most of them who are running active, successful businesses realize over the course of 5 to 7 painful years that that's actually not the best use of their time in real estate investing. And it's not to talk them out of something. It's really just to help them ask the question, like, is that really, what's that going to give you? So many times we just kind of climb the next rung on the ladder. And when you get to the top, you hope that you don't find yourself on the wrong building and looking across and saying, I actually wanted to be on that building. And so it's just asking those thoughtful questions of what am I looking to get out of real estate? And there's a lot of guys I'm like, listen, you should not do what I do. A, because it's not a hobby, it's a business. And B, it's not that you're not capable, but should you do it? Right. Yeah. And there's so many guys that we, investors and business owners that are highly capable people. They could absolutely do it, given enough time, energy, and money. It's not a question of can I, it's should I? And that's almost helpful to ask, put that question in front of some of these investors. And so, what they're able to do is they're able to partner with, put their money to work, get the benefits of real estate investing, have some purpose behind it, but not have to distract themselves with one more thing, which for some guys is kind of difficult because they're pretty entrepreneurial and they like the fix of like, oh, I'm going to go do this thing. And if they've done it long enough, their wife or somebody that loves them talks them out of that bad idea. And, just partner with somebody who's got it figured out so you can keep doing what you love to do.
That's right.
That gets back to what you were talking about earlier on. Like you asked him, what are some of the problems that happen once you've kind of made some real money?
That's right.
Created some real
actively.
wealth. Well, what entrepreneurs often do is they'll like create the next company that they're interested in.
Right.
And what they've done is they've created themselves more responsibility. They've created for themselves another business to operate and run. They didn't sell their previous one. They've just now got more responsibility.
Right.
And you can have an infinite amount of ideas and passion and whatever, but you do not have an infinite amount of time. And so the freedom that you're asking about is, once you've created that wealth, Garrett made the comment, it's really hard to figure out how to deploy that wealth sometimes because many of us many entrepreneurs, I should say, they want to be actively involved because that's how they've gotten to where they've gotten.
Yes.
And so their choice at this point is to trust someone else to do it. And so you get a guy like Garrett who specializes in putting that money to work in real estate to earn a return and to have an impact. And they have to give up, like you just said,
let go.
Active control.
Yeah.
And what they gain from that is they're buying back some time.
Yeah.
They're gaining some of that freedom that they may not have had before.
Right. And
so we just went through this exercise where, we're looking at what we own here, in Owensboro, in this region. And we've made a decision to sell it all and redeploy that capital in a way that buys back my time, stabilizes cash flow, and gives me the time to focus on our new venture with Hearthstone Capital. So, it's a huge transition year for us, but what I'm trying to accomplish is I'm trying to buy back some time.
Yeah.
Simplify my life and be able to put some of that time into what I think is going to have much more of an impact and much more of a potential legacy in the future.
Right.
And so it's that transition.
Have you guys, are you familiar with Ed Milet?
No.
No.
Okay, I'm not trying to call him out, but he's
Yes, you are.
Anytime someone says that is the exact thing that's about to happen. There's a clip that's like viral on the internet. So I'm not the first one that put this together, but he was on a talk show. He's like this performance coach kind of guru guy, and he really says some good stuff. But he was on this show talking to this guy, and he was talking about how he time blocks. Okay. And it's super funny. I'll have to pull it up. I mean, I'll send you the link or something.
Yeah,
and he's like, Monday is like, I work from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then essentially he says Tuesday, I go from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then the third day. And so all he's doing is just shifting the 6 hours that he's working. But the way that he describes it is as though he's multiplying and creating time.
Oh, yeah.
So you can see how the internet just ripped this guy. And they're
You have seen it?
Yeah.
like, we're multiplying time. And it was so
It's
funny
like
to me
time.
because
That's so much time.
that's the one. But it strikes at the heart of what I think all of us think we can do.
Yeah.
Is that we are somehow exempt from the limitation and our finiteness as humans. And this was early on in my real estate career. My father-in-law, who's an incredibly grassroots, simple guy. But because of that, he just had some very tried and true advice for me. And he said, when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's not you're not exempt from it. It is happening because you're making a priority. You're making a trade. And the sooner I've been able to accept that, the more alignment and actually freedom, going back to that, I find in my life, because those distractions that you're talking about, Bo, actually, if we're honest, don't always drive us in the direction that we've maybe even put on paper or decided with our family is the direction we want to go in.
Right.
And that's tough. You want to fight that. And I'm an eternal optimist with 1,000 ideas. So I hate that. That's the limitation. But
my goodness. It's so true.
I get it.
Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. This guy, maybe we'll throw that into the podcast, that clip, because it is so funny.
About that.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. He's like,
my day is 6 a.m. to noon, and I'm not crazy. You're crazy for thinking it takes 24 hours, just like some dude in a cave did 300 years ago. My second day starts at noon and goes till 6 p.m. That's day 2. And then the next day is 6 p.m. to midnight. What I've done now is I have changed and manipulated time. I now get 21 days a week. Stack that up over a month, I'm going to kick your butt. Stack it up over a year, you're toast. Stack it up over 5 years, my entire life is different than it would have been otherwise.
3 work days. So all of a sudden I've taken one of your work days and I've made 3 days. And then the guy responds, then a guy makes a video responding. He's like, yeah, you know what? 1 minute is a full day.
Yeah, my day, every minute is a day. So my day starts at 6 a.m., 6:01 a.m., first day. So now what I've done is I've stacked that up and manipulated over time. I've manipulated time. I'm going to kick your butt, okay? I'm going to kick your butt, dude. Your butt's going to get kicked because I'm having a day every minute, all right? Stack that up over a week. That's thousands of days, you idiot. You're not thinking like me. You're way behind. Your day. What if every day was a second? Did you think about that? Now thousands of seconds and damn, having thousands of days. Dude, I'm kicking your butt. I'm manipulating time.
More time. I've got way more time.
Sounds like you just went Owen Wilson on me or something.
He kind of sounds like that when he does it.
It's a really good impersonation of the video, actually.
Yeah. He's really funny. Oh man, I did have something else I was gonna move into or say, but what were we talking about before that? I don't. You mentioned something right before he told us, oh, yes, a practical way to buy back time, right? We're talking about buy back time. Before we move on to the next thing, a real practical way to buy back your time so you can focus on the things that really, really help you make the biggest impact is an executive assistant.
Yeah.
Right?
I felt like you might be going
That's
there.
right. When you can get yours at superpowershq.com/commercially speaking. Alice has changed Bo's life and in turn has changed my life. And it's quite incredible the changes I have seen in Bo since Alice has been around. Superpowershq.com/commercially speaking. Get your executive assistant today. Today, baby.
Well, on that question, I'm curious. I'd love to hear how are you using an executive assistant kind of coupled with AI? What are the resources that she's using to leverage her time as an executive assistant? Because that's like the ultimate stacking, in my opinion.
This is a great question. And Alice is here too, if we wanted her to jump in at some point. But
yeah, well, all right. So I use Alice for all the stuff that that I don't want to do. So just off the top of my head, and we've done whole episodes on this going back maybe a year or more, but email, handles my calendars. She scheduled this for us, right? Mm-hmm. She does all my travel.
Yep. Haircuts, dates with the wife.
Yeah, I had a date with my wife last night. She set that up. Had a haircut last week. It just happens. It shows up on my calendar.
Did you read Michael Hyatt's book? Is that where this kind of kick-started off?
I was a big Michael Hyatt fan for a lot of years. I said that as if I'm not anymore. He's not in my regular rotation of content that I consume anymore, but like I'm a huge fan. I've met him. I've hired him to speak at an event before.
We're having him on the podcast soon, aren't we? Let's get that going, Alice.
Yeah, we should do that.
Let's make a note, Michael Hyatt.
It really didn't necessarily come from that, though. I heard about it first from him. That was years ago. And then through Strategic Coach, I met a guy named Steven Nooner who's coming back on the show again. He created this company called Superpowers HQ, which is where I got Alice through. But it's specifically EAs for entrepreneurs, and they wrote a great book called Superpowered.
Yeah, but she's out of the Philippines as well.
Yeah, that's right.
We met her for the first time a few months ago.
In Vancouver.
In Vancouver, yeah.
But, I mean, like, she handles a lot of the workflow in our brokerage company. And so when we need a new listing agreement, one of my guys will fill out a form in Notion. It'll go to her. She'll create the listing agreement, send it back. We have it like within 30 minutes. And the goal originally was how fast can we get something back that's 80% good? 80% there. We'll iterate on it. We're going to have to look at it anyway. And how quickly can we get that done? Well, the issue with that is she gives it to us and it's like 95% good or it's perfect. And so she does purchase agreements, lease agreements. She does the first draft of all of that stuff and gets it to us very, very quickly so that, man, our clients aren't waiting on us for docs ever. It gives us the ability to just move fast. I'm forgetting a ton of stuff that she does. But as far as AI.
Yeah, within Notion, there's a lot of AI, and she really helped create the workflow for the podcast as well.
That's right.
Right? So she's very versed in Notion and all the AI tools that help in there.
But she creates the marketing copy in our OMs using ChatGPT. In fact, she doesn't know this yet. I've alluded to it, but I was at a Strategic Coach workshop, and there's a guy named Jeffrey Woods who wrote the book AI Driven Leader. If you haven't read that book, it's fantastic. And he got up in front of the workshop and he said, essentially, and I recorded it. So Alice, I'll probably send you this recording. But basically what he did is he took his assistant and he said, I want you to use AI and have it interview you about your role in this company and the things that you could do to 10x your impact in our company. It's a great prompt. I was like, ooh, that's really good. And then, and so the assistant goes and does this, and she comes back to him and she says, I can become easily 10x more valuable to the company, but we have one problem. And he was like, what's the problem? She's like, you're the problem. I was like, oh. And she's like, you got to stop doing this. You got to stop doing this. You got to stop doing this. If I'm going to become 10x more valuable to the company, you have to become 100x more valuable to the company. It doesn't work without that. And like it was the process of interviewing with the AI model based on that prompt that led to that, and it's been revolutionary to that business.
Yeah,
and it was really cool. So. Yeah, Alice uses a lot of the large language models to just gain efficiency in creation of documents and other things. And
Canva, she uses Canva as well. It's interesting because we're talking about like when you're entrepreneurs wanting to invest, right? And having a hard time passively investing and giving it someone over to trust. And that same thing goes for an executive assistant, right? We talked about that with her.
true.
About it's hard for them to let go of their calendar or, to put a lot of trust into somebody else's hands, which is why Superpowers is incredible. Not just because we love them and I'm plugging it, but Superpowers really helps that process of getting you to speak the same language, and helping the executive to let go.
Yeah, that first 90-day process, they've really got it nailed. Learning your business, helping you. But look, I think the thing I did right from the jump is I just made a decision that I'm going to do this. I'm going to trust until I find out that's a bad idea, and I'm going to do what they say, and I'm going to give up. Like, I'm in charge, but she's in control. Like, she literally manages me.
Yeah.
And she runs my days. We meet every morning at 9 a.m., and she takes me through my day. Hey, here's some things in your inbox you need to pay attention to. Here's your appointments for the day. What can I check off your to-do list for the week? Did you go to the gym yesterday? How did you sleep last night? Like, it's a holistic, she's running me, which allows me to let go of all that stuff and be present in a better version of myself for whatever I'm actually working on, whether it's, I'm showing up to podcasts more prepared. I'm showing up to meetings, a better version of myself. My family is getting a better version of myself when I get home. So I've gotten more accomplished during the day, and my stress level is down. Sometimes Alice she'll be like, "Hey, look, I think you need a half day here to just decompress, and I'll find a block of time on my calendar to just like rest your mind for a while, kind of thing." She's done that a couple times.
Go make yourself a leather book.
Yeah,
Go make a leather little notebook.
I've gotten into leather work in the last couple of months. I'm having a blast in there, but that's what that is. But yeah, that's
they should be called, instead of executive assistants, executive managers. They manage the executives. Anywho.
Yeah, when I think it's done right, like that is much more what they are, for sure.
But you also use Claude a lot, like talking about like executive assistant and then stacking with tools. I'm curious too, because you're in that generation that's really I think more easily accepting and using AI, right? I'm curious what kind of tools you're using with this.
Yeah, what's interesting is I know a loan officer who does a lot of residential volume and runs a pretty top team. And over the years that we've had conversations with him, it was, hey, you need to look into executive assistants, VAs, and then it was AI is going to kind of make that obsolete. And I would push back on that a little bit. Human capital is always going to be at the driving seat of what is most valuable, but the tools that we can have our employees and the people in our company utilize is definitely going to create a disproportionate output. So the perfect marriage, I think, is exactly what you're talking about, is resourcing your executive assistant, your virtual assistants with the right tools to see, massive impact. So, we use, there's a lot of CRMs right now that are layering in their own AI component within that, which has been very helpful. I haven't yet pulled the trigger on like my own private chat GPT account. So that'll probably be kind of an eventuality at some point. You can have a $200 subscription where it's all closed loop. They don't share your data. You can have a lot of confidence to put underwriting, information into it, some of the financial type stuff, and know that it's not going to be publicly accessible. That's still, some people are still skeptical about that. And I totally get that. At this point, I'm kind of like, if somebody wants to know something about me, it's too late. Like,
right.
I agree. Yeah.
But yeah, we've looked into, we haven't pulled the trigger on this one yet, but it's been an AI tool that will help essentially consolidate all your standard operating procedures, put them into video form, and then have like a digital library that you can access.
I've heard
for
about
training.
this. What is that called?
I think it's called Trainual.
Yeah, I heard about this. You're doing something, you just sort of hit record, and it records what you're doing, and then it creates video SOPs of your workflows. It's all in one place. It's kind of like Loom on steroids in some way, I think, with more of a organizational component to what you're creating, and it creates these libraries. So if you're hit by a truck or somebody leaves, my property manager's up and left, and I'm literally having to do things right now that I've never actually done, like CAM reconciliation. I know what that is, and I know it's supposed to happen, but I've never actually done the workflow of it. I'm not enjoying myself.
Yeah.
Doing this. I never want to do it again. But, it would have been nice if I had a little video or a little SOP. Hey, I grabbed this file from Office 365 in Excel, and then I take all the bills are scanned in, and they're over here in QuickBooks or whatever, and I'm having to go find all that stuff, and I know it's supposed to happen. I just don't actually know the tedious tactical steps to do it. It's just a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, the biggest bottleneck right now is my ability to just adopt new things. And so there's a fine tension, I think, of new technology and that R&D aspect of it, and then just committing to something long enough to see the benefit and the outcome of it.
Yeah.
And sure, in 3 months, could there be another program that does it a little bit different? But there's going to be a cost of the mental capital that I have to use to relearn that.
That's
so
very well said.
It's a tension I feel like we're always managing, but
very well said.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah. I'm sure Michael Hieronymus will talk to us about that that one that y'all were just describing. And so anybody listening to this right now, we got Michael Hieronymus that's up to date on all the AI and the tools that are going through. He'd be somebody worth watching, or even his I forget the name of his little training.
Yeah, it's implementing AI
in CRE.
In CRE is his course, and it's continuously updated.
He's
it's
great.
Buy once, retake it over and over again as things adapt. Really, really good. If you want to see some cutting edge AI and CRE stuff, his course is fantastic. I've taken it twice.
We've had him on the podcast at least 3 times, and he's coming back again. He's always updating us. He's our AI guy, specifically for CRE as well. And he's a CCIM instructor as well. He teaches.
Have you guys heard of Terracotta?
Terracotta, right?
Terracotta. Yeah. So it's a new one that it's essentially, oh gosh, how would I describe it? It's a CoStar, auto dialer, CRM, kind of all into one application. It's really interesting, and I'm in the process of piloting it right now. So I can hop on, build a list. It pulls information. So essentially, anybody who's ever done cold calling or hunting in the underworld of commercial real estate, you have these layers, right? So you go to the auditor site. You pull the LLC, you go to the state business portal to figure out the information of who the name is registered under and all this different stuff. Then you go to White Pages or ZipBiz and try and find something. It pulls all of that in to one program. So now my workflow is not organized enough yet to get to this point, but I could go through a list of 150 names and auto dial all of those, and it would just go through a sequential list until somebody got on the phone, and then I would pick up that conversation. And on my screen, it would populate the information about their property. It's a 3-story building. Each floor plate's 8,000 square feet. They've owned it for this amount of time, and have an intelligible conversation in a very short amount of time. That is going to be a game changer, I think.
Wow. Yeah. Have you heard about that, Bo?
Not Terracotta specifically, but that sort of auto dialers have been around for a while. Yeah. And we used them at the Mossmo group. They probably still do. And you're getting auto dialed when you pick up and there's a little bit of a gap. And then there's that little whoop, and somebody starts talking. That's generally when I hang up,
Yeah.
But if that became more seamless and less obvious, which you kind of know what it is, that's one thing, to have a list and just dial. But at the same time, for some kind of program to be able to scrub information sources and pull in contact information with their property information, and when somebody picks up and all of a sudden their information with the property you're calling on and all its information, for that to just be there right in front of you when somebody calls or when somebody picks up, that's sort of next level efficiency. That's really cool. And then you just have to get good at like mode shifting. All right, this is this guy, this property. And then you're going to find out real quick how much you trust your information source.
That's true.
Because if you're pulling that off of a CoStar or a Crexi or Moody's or the PVA office or the auditor's office, what you called it, or wherever it's getting that information, if you're 80% good, I can live with that all day long. That's 80% better than I'd have if I didn't use that source, you know. But 20% of the time, you're going to say something that's incorrect. Hey, I see you've owned this building since 2025 or 2020. And they're like, no, actually, we've owned it since 2016 or whatever. And then you're like, then you got to recover and pivot. And you just got to level up your phone skills to do that.
Sure.
And you can say,
It'll leave a voicemail. Like if I don't, let's say I call somebody, it doesn't go through. It'll leave a voicemail. And this is a lot of when we're going to try. We do a lot of direct to seller stuff. Try to. So it'll leave a voicemail crafted off of my voice based on prompts that I've already kind of given earlier on in those recordings. And like you can listen to it on the front end so you know what's being left in someone's voicemail and just how like spammy or natural it feels. And it's pretty close. It's pretty close. I think what'll happen is people will catch up eventually and they're going to start to pick up the cues for those kinds of things to probably sniff that out. So I don't know how, long-term effective it'll be, but it's a great workflow tool.
When you were talking about the information or finding out real quickly where you can trust the information, maybe think about when Dwight stole Michael Scott's Rolodex and he's trying to, when he's doing Michael Scott Paper Company and he goes in and he's like, yeah, so how's Brandon, your gay son? He's like, who? He's like, your homosexual son, Brandon. How is he? And Michael's like, all the things I do not mention are in green, which means go ahead and shut up about it. Right. Let's move back into investing for a second. I love that detour of AI. When you're working with investors, and Bo, there's a question for you too. When do you see people confusing being safe with money to being wise? Does that make sense? Like some people want to be safe with the money, so they don't do much. They bury it in the ground, as it were, if we're talking biblically, right?
Nice.
So
there
nice
we go. Solution.
Right? So being safe, where do you see people confusing being safe with being wise?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Bo, do you want to take this one first?
I think we're both looking at each other like, and if he goes first, I have time to come up with a thoughtful answer.
Where my mind goes initially is there's risk is always present. So like you have to start by acknowledging the ever-present risk. I mean, having, $10 million in one depository institution is risky because the FDIC only insures up to $250,000, right? So there's risk having money in a bank. There's risk in the bond market. There's risk everywhere. And I think everybody would obviously probably acknowledge that. So the notion of safety is definitely more of a subjective kind of way to answer that, I think. One would argue that it's not safe to have money in an asset that doesn't, hedge with inflation, right? So, we try to understand enough on a case-by-case basis of what someone's kind of current holdings and exposure is to the market, because we might not be the solution for everybody.
Yeah. Right.
Like if you have a lot of money already deployed in real estate and what you need is a measure of your assets to be liquid, probably not the right scenario for you. And I don't know, that was kind of my mind goes first. I don't know what you would add to that, Bo.
I thought immediately about risk because the premise of your question is that there's a difference between safety and wisdom when it comes to investing. You're
either being led by fear or you're following it.
Yeah, and I would say, I've talked about on the podcast that I don't have the risk profile to be a developer. Like I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. That's too risky, but people do that.
Yeah.
And people need to do that.
Right.
That's just not me. If you're a high net worth individual, I think you want to have a real honest conversation with how comfortable are you with different amounts of risk? And that's going to lead you into a direction where I think wisdom is to put your capital in play for good and for returns in a way that is smartly done based on the amount of risk you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And this really depends on where you are in your life cycle or career, how much money you actually have. Like if you've made your first million and you're trying to make your second million and you're 40 years old, like you're probably comfortable with more risk and you probably want to move faster. But man, there's some of these family offices that have $3 billion in assets. And what they're trying to do is preserve it and grow it over time. And they might be very comfortable with 5% returns, because at scale they want to minimize losing any of it.
Right.
And so they're going to be more risk averse, but you might talk to the next family office who has a couple billion in assets and they're comfortable with a little bit more risk. And so they're going after something that might be more of an 8% return. I'm just picking numbers, but
sure.
I think wisdom is understanding like how God's created you
Yeah.
and what you're comfortable with and deploying it wisely with people who are highly skilled experts, wise in those spaces that you can trust. Because look, when you start talking about those amounts of money, you don't have enough time in the day to deploy it all smartly with a lot of wisdom.
Unless you had an executive assistant, but yeah.
Or an army of them.
Or an army of them, yeah.
But it's,
which you could get at superpowershq.com/commercially speaking.
Yeah.
But like there is a lot of people that want to protect their money, right? Or they
Sure.
want to invest in real estate because it's a good tax shield or shelter, tax shelter in many different ways. But when does protecting your money start to hurt you? You know what I mean? Like everybody wants to protect their money, right? But you're being led by fear, so you don't want to take those risks. Well, I guess you've answered it.
well,
I think
look,
a lot
this
of people
gets
that have
back to
gotten to that level probably don't fall into that category as much of protecting it and maybe hoarding it. Just because in order to get there, you really had to do some things right to put that to work.
That's a good
unless
point.
you're maybe a subsequent generation and you don't really have the reference point for what that took to get there. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And the premise of your question is a little bit flawed if you're talking to somebody that has, faith. Protecting your money isn't the question. It's how do I steward the resources God's given me? It's a totally different question. And so if you're coming from it from that perspective, like you want to be the good servant, to get back to the parable you alluded to.
Yeah.
You want to be the one that put those 10 talents to work and created a return. And so do that with a lot of intelligence and wisdom.
Yeah.
Understanding the risk that you're taking,
Sure. Like we're an investment outlet for somebody. But in the process, like our wider goal is to really equip the clients that we work with to do more of the thing that they want to do. And sometimes that might be placing capital in one of our investments. And sometimes it might be giving them the connections and the resources to set up an endowment or, some kind of giving mechanism that's going to help them pursue just radical generosity, just in some, projects that they're passionate about. And so this is something I'm learning about is more about the donor advised funds strategy and connecting our clients with companies that can facilitate and create these donor advised funds for them. Because usually if you're interested in our messaging, which is, hey, put purpose behind your capital and get a return on it, you're probably also going to be interested in just donations and giving and philanthropy. And so we want to try to get those right people in the room. So we'll be doing a seminar in March, which will kind of help with that conversation. But that's why my job is really fun, is I get to meet with people who are, we kind of solve one spoke of their wheel, which is, hey, I need somebody I can trust to diversify into real estate investing for all the benefits that come with that, so that I can, maybe set up my family to run the business and step back into more of a sage role, or take a board position with this ministry that we are heavily vested in. So you get to be kind of a problem solving, component for these guys we work with.
Right.
Is that through the National Christian Foundation?
Yes. The short answer is yes. The guy that started the National Christian Foundation, Terry Parker, mentored, some different guys. And so we work with a company called Helping Hands, and they are essentially set up through the National Christian Foundation to do that.
Mom and dad use that for a donor advisory fund, like what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They give a lot. We got to wrap up here in just a little bit, but I'd be remiss. I saw you post on LinkedIn about that the meeting you had for goals of 2026, and you were in a 3D printed concrete home.
Yeah.
Airbnb. And I'm not assuming you're an expert on that, but
It would be a good assumption.
right. But being in there, what was something you noticed? What stood out being in it, and do you think it's important for investors to pay attention to where things are heading? That was cool.
What was it like being in that house?
Yeah.
It was surreal. No, I was kidding.
The future.
So listen, this has been really cool. Sustainable concrete innovations. Really, really awesome group of guys. Just some entrepreneurial guys locally that ran with this vision. Not that concrete printing is new, but a lot of people have had a hard time either, feeling optimistic about it in places that have colder climates, like in Northwest Ohio. And so they really went all in on this, and they are successfully completing homes, which is crazy. A lot of guys just get stuck in kind of the hypothesis phase. Mm-hmm. And this was the first 3D concrete printed home that was completed in Ohio, which is just 20 minutes from my office. And watching the process is wild to me. Literally, and there's two different systems. There's like a gantry system, and then there's a literal robot that will move around and just, layer by layer, 1 inch at a time. And it's very technical. You have to get the mixes right, because essentially you need the concrete to set up enough that it will not compress.
Yeah.
By the time that the next course comes back over top of it.
Wow.
So like the mix ratio is really, for engineer level scientist guys way smarter than me, but the R value of those homes is insane.
That's the insulation value, like how insulated
R
wow. value.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
That'd be a fun episode. Get those guys, sustainable concrete innovations. They would have a blast with you. So here's what I think on the concrete side of things. Yeah.
I don't know if it's the solution to affordable housing.
Yeah.
However, I think it is a necessary component for the housing industry to explore alternatives that will create entry-level housing for people and truly be, because ironically, a lot of the concrete homes that you see printed are just very high-end custom homes that are like these kind of speculative things that you'd pay millions, like in Texas. And that's what a lot of that's happening. Nobody's really moved into an application where it's tiny home living yet, and they're truly making it affordable. So I think that component still needs to come.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really interesting things happening in modular housing, concrete printing, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast the other day that was talking, it made this point. I never thought about it before, and I hadn't taken that thought through to see if it holds up, but it seems to hold up. And this was the point. All new technology succeeds with the rich first, and then it becomes affordable.
Yeah.
Everything from plasma TVs, like flat screen TVs, they were for the rich first. Now everybody's got them and they're cheap. Like the technology gets there to where it's affordable. Teslas, same thing.
Right.
This sounds like it was a high-end custom home. It was expensive to create it. There was still all the capital involved in the R&D of it. Need to pay that back or pay it off or create a return on it.
What's R&D again?
Research and development.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Just the brain power and all the money that was spent creating the tech to use in the first place. And it's going to be the rich that are going to pay for that. And then once it bears out as effective, a great material to build houses, all that stuff, that it's efficient, all that stuff, it will become more affordable.
Right. And
then it'll be more available to the masses. I never really thought about that before, but as I think about new products, it always seems to be that way.
Right.
And then
there's a book called Crossing the Chasm, and it's a bell curve of how technology is adopted, and it's exactly what you're talking about. Okay. So like the first phase is the innovators, right? They take the risk. It's highly inefficient. They put their capital to work. Then you have the early adopters, and it's all the people that were buying Teslas and pre-ordering them when they were first coming out. Like, I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but it's pretty cool, so I want one.
Yep.
And then there's that chasm of like the early adopters to the early majority. And if you can get across that, then you have essentially taken a new product or technology into widespread adoption. And it's just interesting to watch that. I don't think that's happened. I mean, I know it hasn't happened yet with the concrete, home, but I think it definitely could be that way.
Well, I got one more question, unless you got any, Bo. What's one question every successful business owner should be asking about their money, but usually doesn't until it's too late?
Ask that one more time. That's a very good question.
Sure. What's one question every successful business owner should be asking about their money, but usually doesn't until it's too late? In your opinion?
This is just fresh on my mind. I'm reading and it's an old book, Business by the Book by Larry Burkett. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know this, but Dave Ramsey got kind of the inspiration or the rights from Larry Burkett to do everything with the Ramsey solutions that he's done. So Larry Burkett was like the godfather of like biblical financial principles.
Yep. Wow.
And I think a lot of leadership principles, Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind. Okay. And so to that point, I think the question that everybody needs to ask themselves that maybe is what am I doing today with my funds, with my wealth, that is going to set up generations to come after me? And not even your kids. I think you really need to extend that into the second and third generation, because that just rewires the decisions that you're making today, especially at somebody's in this crucial moment in their life where maybe they exited a business, had a capital event, sold some real estate, or about to deploy that, and asking that question of how is this going to impact my grandchildren or my great-grandchildren is a tremendous question. And I think it's a difficult one to answer, but it's one worth putting the energy into answering.
Yeah. Big prayer, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
What do you think, Bo?
Well, just to kind of spitball on what he said, we've talked about, the dangers of setting up generational wealth for your family. Like, if you don't take the time to actually teach them to work and show them the value of $1 and they just grow up as a trust fund baby, there's a lot of pitfalls there.
Yeah.
And you actually hurt generations of your family. You do this well, it can be a great blessing for generations of your family. But when he used the word expand, my mind went somewhere else. Like, you were talking about expanding it for further generations, elongate the time horizon. So you're making decisions based on a longer time horizon. It can really reformat what you're thinking about and what you say yes and no to. But if you expand the idea of generational wealth beyond your family and how it can do good just in general, like you expand it beyond the walls of just your family, how can I create and steward the wealth and grow the wealth that the Lord's entrusted us with in a way that does the most good for the longest period of time, and you get your family to buy into that vision, and hopefully they grow up understanding it's not theirs anyway, but it's a responsibility and a great privilege to be able to steward this wealth, continue to grow it so it can have great impact. Like, that's kind of a vision that you can invite generations of your family to.
Yeah.
As opposed to growing up as a trust fund baby and
that's right,
squandering it all in the third generation kind of thing.
It's interesting to me because this very much comes from the Bible, which is what we have is not ours, right? So whose is it to those that aren't a part of the faith, right? It almost seems impossible to be able to think on those terms, right? Where what I've earned is not mine.
So the natural abilities that the Lord's given me, and the energy and vision that He's given me, and allowing Him to grow all of that talent that He's given me in the first place to deploy for His benefit, that is able to lead towards creating that kind of wealth or growing that kind of wealth, so that I steward it in a way that honors him and is deployed in a way that advances the kingdom. What exactly did I do there? Not much. What I should say, what exactly in that process can I take credit for? Not really anything.
Yeah, well, stepping up to the plate,
Like showing up.
showing up. Yeah.
And like deploying what the Lord's already given me in talents and abilities and whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to take credit for any of that. Now the world looks at it completely different, but fine.
Right.
Just do good.
Yeah, do good. Yeah. Yeah.
I like that idea of giving that vision to, your family and even those around you. I think what's interesting is my generation, people who are trying to figure out like how to make a mark or make an influence. We almost feel like we have to go to a platform first and say the thing that we want to be heard, And I think that's a very backwards approach. There's just a lot of merit in putting your head down, getting on the business end of execution, and letting that be the thing that is communicated to the people around you. Because then that's the outworking of who you are versus, something that you're trying to portray yourself as. And when your kids see you, walking that out, taking the mission trip, and, I would love nothing more than to, right now, the conversation we're having with our kids is how do we bring them in on the missionaries that we support, the projects that we're a part of. I don't want them just to know that we are trying to be generous. I want them to have a personal touch with that, right? So like they're going, through the mobile home park that we own, and, they're interacting with our residents, and they have a part in that. I think that's how you give them that vision. It's caught, not taught, right?
Yeah, I'd agree. Yep.
So anyway.
Yeah. Well, this has been, Garrett, this has been great. What a conversation we've had.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's been really great. You co-host a podcast called Reinvest, which is RE:invest podcast, I believe is what it is. Can you tell the listeners what they can expect from that podcast? Is that something you are actively doing now? And anything else you'd like to share, or where they can follow or get involved?
Yeah, so Reinvest Podcast, been doing that for 3 years now. Try to do it weekly. And really it's a catch-all for real estate investing. So we love to get exposed to new concepts, CRE technology that are relevant for the operators in the industry, or people's origin stories. I mean, everybody wants to, you see the big names in real estate, but we like to find those guys who are up and coming and are stacking wins. And, so it's really just a very broad category. And then through that, we get to talk about just kind of our investing journey, which is what we love. So
Nice.
it's been fun. And I think, Bo, would love to have you on. I think we're scheduled in a few weeks here. Would be excited to get into that and hear more about your story. But,
sure.
But no, yeah, reinvestcapital.us is our website, and I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So anybody wants to reach out, would love to have a conversation.
GarrettGatton.
It's the
Correct.
only right way to spell it.
The only right way to spell it. Awesome. Well, this has been great. Bo's a great guest to have.
Did you just say Bo's a great guest to have?
Bo is a great guest to have. You're going to be
you're
lucky
telling
to have
him.
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
right.
he's our guest on this podcast.
Oh, right.
I was
No,
so
I was
confused.
telling him
Okay.
it's a good choice to have Bo. Garrett, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. This has been great.
Guys, thank you.
You're welcome. At some point, success stops feeling like winning and starts feeling like, okay, but seriously, what do I do with all this money now? Because money is great, but unmanaged money is just anxiety with better snacks. Listening to Garrett, this isn't about getting richer. It's about getting your life back, your time, your sanity, your kids remembering your face, which feels important, especially if you have 7 of them.
Agreed. Right. If this episode helped you think differently about your money, your time, or your priorities, make sure you're subscribed, leave us a review, and share it with someone who's asking, now what? If you want a practical way to buy back your time and eliminate the suck, get yourself an executive assistant.
Yeah, why don't you go on get yourself an executive assistant there? Go on, get it.
Alice has changed my life. Apart from everything she does for my business, she schedules dates apart with my wife. We went to City Walk last night, had a great meal. It was fantastic. My travel, lodging, haircuts, even books the guests on this show, all of which are things I do not have to do. Bottom line, she allows me to focus on the things that make my biggest impact, and she does it all from the Philippines. If you need an Alice in your life, and you do, go to our friends at superpowershq.com/commercially speaking.
For those in the back, that's superpowershq.com/commercially speaking. And now, as tradition demands, Barbara Corcoran. Barbara, if you're listening, watching, or quietly judging us from afar, which you're not, you have no idea who we are. But just in case, we would love to have you on the show.
Very respectfully.
Yes, Barbara, we promise thoughtful questions, real conversation, and absolutely zero pitches. Everyone else, we'll see you next week. Love you, brother.
Love you, brother. Bye Alice.
Bye.
Woohoo.
Bye, Bridget.
Bye, Bridget.